5 Habits That Changed My Life. Start doing these today. Presented by Boundless Books Audio. Introduction. Welcome to Boundless Books Audio, 5 Habits That Changed My Life, a journey where I share personal transformations that have helped shape who I am today, and this audiobook is not just about success tips or motivational content. It's about the habits I incorporated into my life, how they helped me grow, and how they can help you too. Throughout this audiobook, I will dive deep into the habits I adopted over the years and how they completely shifted my perspective, productivity, mindset, and overall well-being. These habits are simple, but they take consistent effort and practice to truly become part of your daily routine. If you're new to my channel, make sure to subscribe for more content on personal growth, motivation, and tips to improve every aspect of your life. Now, let's get started. Chapter 1. The Power of Morning Routines. The first habit that truly transformed my life was establishing a consistent morning routine. It wasn't something that happened overnight. It took time, trial, and error, but once I found a rhythm, it changed everything. The power of a morning routine lies in its ability to set the tone for the rest of your day. How you start your morning has a profound impact on your energy levels, mental clarity, and overall mindset. Before adopting a structured morning routine, my mornings felt chaotic. I'd rush to get out of bed, check my phone, grab a cup of coffee, and stumble into work or school without much intention or focus. The day would often feel disjointed, and by midday, I was already feeling drained and behind. I realized that if I wanted to live a more intentional and productive life, I had to take control of my mornings. I started small, setting my alarm 30 minutes earlier to give myself time to slowly wake up and ease into the day. Instead of jumping straight into emails or social media, I began by practicing mindfulness. I would spend 5 minutes meditating or simply breathing deeply, grounding myself before the day began. This practice helped me clear the mental clutter and focus on what truly mattered. Another key part of my morning routine became movement. I'm not talking about a full workout session, although that's great too. I started with gentle stretches or a 10-minute walk outside to get my body moving and my blood flowing. Physical movement in the morning has an incredible impact on mental clarity. It wakes up both your body and mind, helping you feel more energized and less sluggish. From there, I added journaling to my routine. I began writing down a few things I was grateful for and setting my intentions for the day. This simple act of reflection helped me cultivate a positive mindset and focus on what I wanted to achieve, rather than getting bogged down by negative thoughts or stress. Over time, I noticed a shift in my productivity and mindset. I was more focused, less distracted, and felt a greater sense of accomplishment by the end of each day. The morning routine provided a sense of control, and that control carried over into the rest of my day. I started to wake up with purpose instead of just reacting to whatever came my way. I also discovered the power of consistency. It wasn't enough to just do these things for a few days or weeks, it was the sustained practice that made the real difference. Just like any habit, the more you practice it, the more ingrained it becomes. Today, my morning routine is the cornerstone of my productivity. It's not about rigidly following a checklist, it's about creating a sense of order and intention to start my day. Whether I'm tackling a big project or simply going through my normal workday, the morning routine gives me the mental foundation I need to succeed. If you haven't yet incorporated a morning routine into your life, I highly recommend you try it. Start small, experiment with what works for you, and watch as your mornings, and your life, begin to transform. Chapter 2. The 5-Minute Rule. one of the most powerful habits that has drastically changed my life is the simple yet highly effective 5-minute rule. It's such a straightforward concept, but it's made an enormous impact on my productivity and mindset. The idea behind the 5-minute rule is simple. If you're struggling to start a task or feeling overwhelmed by a project, commit to doing just 5 minutes of it. That's it, 5 minutes. You might be wondering how such a small commitment could have any real effect, but trust me, it's a game changer. Here's why: the hardest part of any task is getting started. Procrastination thrives on the idea that a task will be time-consuming, difficult, or simply unpleasant. When you think about the enormity of a project, it's easy to put it off or get stuck in analysis paralysis. The 5-minute rule bypasses that mental roadblock by focusing on a very small, easy-to-achieve commitment. When you tell yourself, "I only have to do this for 5 minutes," it removes the pressure and the fear of the task. It makes it feel less intimidating. And here's the beautiful part: once you get started, 5 minutes often turns into 15, 30, or even an hour of productive work. The simple act of beginning shifts your mindset from avoidance to action. The 5-minute window is a bridge that helps you break through procrastination. I started applying this rule to tasks that I usually dread, like writing reports, doing laundry, or cleaning my workspace. In the past, I would put them off for days, creating unnecessary stress. But with the 5-minute rule, I found that once I got my feet wet, I could easily keep going. Another key benefit of this rule is that it works for any type of task, whether it's something creative, administrative, or something you just don't feel like doing. It's perfect for breaking down larger goals into bite-sized pieces. For example, if I was working on a big writing project, I would tell myself, "I'm going to write for 5 minutes. That's all." And after 5 minutes, I'd find myself in the flow, writing well past the initial goal. It's not about willpower or motivation, it's about tricking your brain into overcoming the inertia of starting. Even if 5 minutes is all I could manage, I still considered it a success because I took action. And in many cases, taking action leads to momentum. This habit also reduces the feelings of guilt and shame that often accompany procrastination. Instead of beating yourself up over not doing something, you simply start with 5 minutes, and those small wins add up. In fact, the 5-minute rule often prevents procrastination from taking root because it removes the overwhelming nature of starting. And over time, as you become more consistent, it builds your confidence and reduces your resistance to tasks. If you're someone who struggles to get things done, I encourage you to try the 5-minute rule for a week. Start by applying it to one task each day, and you'll soon realize that starting is the hardest part, but once you're in motion, things get easier. The rule is simple, but it's one of the most effective ways to beat procrastination and build momentum toward achieving your goals. Chapter 3: Gratitude Practice and Positive Thinking. Gratitude has been one of the most transformative habits I've incorporated into my life, and it's something I believe can completely shift your perspective and overall well-being. I used to think of gratitude as just a nice, feel-good concept, something you might practice during Thanksgiving or when you felt like it. But over time, I realized that incorporating gratitude into my daily routine wasn't just an occasional exercise, it became a powerful tool for reshaping my mindset. When I first started practicing gratitude, it wasn't as easy as it sounds. I had to train myself to look beyond the surface and find the good, even in challenging or seemingly mundane moments. At first, I would simply jot down a few things I was grateful for at the end of each day. But what I quickly learned was that gratitude isn't just about writing down a list, it's about shifting your focus. In a world where we're often surrounded by negativity, bad news, and endless distractions, it's easy to get caught up in complaints, worries, and what's going wrong. Gratitude forces you to stop and focus on what's going right, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant. Over time, I started noticing the effects this shift had on my mindset. The more I focused on gratitude, the less I dwelled on negative thoughts, doubts, or setbacks. It wasn't about ignoring the challenges I faced, but about acknowledging the positives that were often overshadowed by those challenges. I started to appreciate the small things: a warm cup of coffee in the morning, a kind message from a friend, the beauty of a sunset, or the quiet moments of peace in a busy day. This practice of focusing on the good things helped me to retrain my brain to seek out the positives rather than defaulting to negative thought patterns. As I continued with this practice, I found that positive thinking became a natural byproduct of gratitude. Gratitude doesn't just make you feel good in the moment, it also leads to long-term shifts in how you approach life. For example, when I would encounter difficult situations, instead of immediately feeling defeated or stressed, I started to ask myself, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? Even in moments of struggle, I found myself seeking the silver lining. I became more resilient because I wasn't allowing myself to get bogged down by negativity. This positivity began to seep into every aspect of my life. My relationships improved because I started to see the best in others and express gratitude for the people around me. I became more patient, more understanding, and more compassionate. And perhaps most importantly, I began to see opportunities rather than obstacles. Gratitude didn't just change my mindset, it changed the way I viewed the world. It made me realize that happiness isn't a destination, it's a mindset you can cultivate daily. Practicing gratitude, even on the hardest days, can be a simple but profound way to rewire your brain and turn negative thought patterns into positive ones. Whether you're facing a challenge or simply trying to stay grounded, gratitude has the power to bring clarity, peace, and joy into your life. If you haven't yet made gratitude a part of your daily routine, I encourage you to start small. Take 5 minutes each morning or evening to write down 3 things you're grateful for. It doesn't matter how big or small they are, what matters is the shift in focus. Over time, this practice will begin to change the way you see the world, and in turn, it will change your life. Chapter 4: Setting Clear Goals and Tracking Progress. Setting clear goals and tracking your progress is one of the most empowering habits you can adopt to take control of your life. For the longest time, I operated without clear, actionable goals, thinking that simply hoping for the best would somehow lead me to success. However, I quickly realized that without clear direction, I was just spinning my wheels, getting distracted by shiny objects, and never fully reaching my potential. The moment I started setting clear, specific goals, everything changed. Clear goals act as a roadmap. They provide you with direction, purpose, and a clear target to aim for. Without a clear destination, it's like driving without a map. You might be moving, but you have no idea if you're getting any closer to where you want to go. I learned that simply saying I want to be successful or I want to be healthier wasn't enough. These goals were too vague, too abstract to guide me toward tangible results. Instead, I started breaking them down into clear, specific objectives. For example, instead of saying, I want to be healthier, I set goals like, "I will exercise 30 minutes every day," or "I will eat a balanced meal for lunch." These specific actions gave me a framework to follow. What's even more important than setting clear goals is tracking your progress along the way. When I first started tracking my goals, I noticed something incredible. Being able to measure my progress kept me motivated, even on the days when I didn't feel like pushing forward. Progress, no matter how small, is still progress. Tracking your goals gives you that daily affirmation that you're moving forward. This habit helped me maintain momentum because I could see that I was inching closer to my target, even on the tough days. I began to use a variety of methods to track my goals. For some objectives, I used simple to-do lists or checkboxes. For larger, long-term goals, I used digital tools like apps or spreadsheets that allowed me to monitor progress over time. One of the most effective methods I adopted was breaking down long-term goals into smaller, bite-sized tasks. This made the process less overwhelming and gave me a clear, manageable path to follow. For example, if my long-term goal was to write a book, I broke it down into smaller goals like, write 500 words a day, or, complete one chapter per week. Tracking my daily progress and checking off these smaller goals provided a sense of accomplishment and helped me build a sustainable routine. Another key lesson I learned was the importance of reviewing and adjusting my goals regularly. Sometimes life throws curveballs, and you may need to pivot or reassess your goals. Tracking progress helps you identify when you're off track or when adjustments are necessary. Without reviewing your goals regularly, it's easy to let them slip into the background and lose sight of what you're working toward. By regularly checking in on your goals, you're able to make the necessary adjustments and stay aligned with your bigger vision. Setting clear goals and tracking your progress doesn't just help you achieve what you want, it also builds confidence. Every small victory, every checkbox marked, reinforces the belief that you're capable of success. It's a cycle of achievement that propels you forward. If you want to take control of your life and create meaningful change, start by setting clear, actionable goals and commit to tracking your progress. You'll be amazed at how much more focused, productive, and motivated you become when you can see your progress unfold. Chapter 5: Prioritizing Health and Fitness. One of the most significant transformations in my life came when I decided to prioritize my health and fitness. For years, I treated my physical well-being as an afterthought, always placing work, social commitments, and other distractions ahead of exercise and proper nutrition. The result? I was constantly tired, stressed, and found myself in a mental fog. I knew I wasn't living up to my potential, but I didn't realize how directly my physical health was affecting every other aspect of my life. That all changed when I finally made the conscious decision to put my health first. The journey started small, just a 15-minute workout each morning to wake up my body and get the blood flowing. I wasn't aiming for perfection, but I wanted to introduce movement into my daily routine in a way that felt sustainable. I quickly realized that taking care of my body wasn't just about working out, it was about treating my body as the foundation for everything else in my life. Fitness isn't just about aesthetics or losing weight, it's about building strength, increasing energy, and improving overall well-being. As I continued to prioritize exercise, I found that my energy levels skyrocketed. I no longer woke up feeling groggy or drained. Instead, I woke up feeling ready to take on the day with a sense of clarity and focus. Exercise became the anchor that helped me start my mornings on a positive note. Beyond the physical benefits, I noticed a profound shift in my mental health. Regular exercise became a form of stress relief, allowing me to clear my mind and combat anxiety. When life felt overwhelming, I could count on a quick workout to release tension, reduce stress, and give me a much-needed mental reset. It's incredible how moving your body can have such a powerful effect on your mind. Nutrition played a critical role in my fitness journey as well. I realized that fueling my body with the right foods was just as important as the exercise I was doing. I started by making small, healthier changes to my diet, replacing processed snacks with whole, nutrient-dense foods like fruits, vegetables, and lean proteins. At first, it felt like a challenge, but over time, these choices became second nature. I started feeling more energetic, sleeping better, and even noticed improvements in my skin and digestion. When you prioritize health, the results extend far beyond just physical appearance. It boosts confidence, increases productivity, and allows you to show up as the best version of yourself in all areas of life. As I continued to make health a priority, I also began to see how it positively affected my relationships. With more energy and a better mood, I was able to engage more fully with others, be present, and enjoy the moments instead of feeling drained or distracted. But perhaps the most powerful realization I had was this: taking care of your body isn't just a physical act, it's a form of self-respect. Prioritizing health is a way of showing yourself that you matter, that you are worthy of investing time and energy into. It's easy to get caught up in work or other obligations, but the truth is, nothing in life is sustainable without a healthy body and mind to support it. Prioritizing fitness isn't about obsessing over workouts or dieting. It's about making choices every day that contribute to your overall well-being. Start small, whether it's taking a walk each day, doing a quick workout, or choosing healthier foods. The key is consistency. Over time, you'll begin to notice the incredible benefits that come from putting your health first. Not only will you feel better physically, but you'll experience a mental clarity and energy that will carry you through every challenge in life. Chapter 6: Time Management and the Pomodoro Technique. Time management has always been a challenge for me, especially when juggling multiple tasks, deadlines, and the constant influx of distractions. For years, I struggled to stay on top of my work, often feeling like I was busy but not truly productive. That's when I discovered the Pomodoro Technique, and it completely revolutionized how I manage my time. The Pomodoro Technique is simple: you work for 25 minutes, followed by a 5-minute break. After completing 4 Pomodoros, for 25-minute work blocks, you take a longer break of 15 to 30 minutes. What drew me to this technique wasn't just its simplicity but its ability to break down work into manageable chunks while ensuring that my brain stayed fresh and focused. At first, it seemed almost too easy to work for just 25 minutes at a time. But what I quickly learned was that the Pomodoro Technique taps into a psychological principle called the principle of urgency. When you know that you only have 25 minutes to work on a task, it's easier to get started and focus. The ticking timer creates a sense of urgency, helping you stay on task and avoid the usual distractions that might otherwise derail your productivity. What amazed me most was how much I could accomplish in just 25 minutes. The key was that during those 25 minutes, I was fully focused on one task: no checking emails, no scrolling through social media, and no jumping between projects. I started to realize that multitasking, which I had always believed to be efficient, was actually a productivity killer. The Pomodoro Technique helped me eliminate distractions and gave me permission to focus on just one thing at a time, which led to better quality work and faster completion times. The short 5-minute breaks between work sessions also had a huge impact on my productivity. Rather than pushing through hours of non-stop work and eventually burning out, I took regular breaks to recharge. Those breaks were a lifeline. They gave me a moment to step away from my work, stretch, grab a snack, or just breathe. By the time the next Pomodoro started, I was ready to dive back into the task at hand with renewed energy and focus. Another powerful aspect of the Pomodoro technique is how it encourages reflection and self-assessment. After completing a few Pomodoros, I started reviewing how much I had accomplished and whether I needed to adjust my strategy. Sometimes I'd realize that I had underestimated how long a task would take, or that I was getting bogged down in unnecessary details. This ongoing self-assessment helped me become more efficient in my approach and more realistic about how long tasks actually take. I also began to recognize patterns in my own productivity, like which times of the day I was most focused and when I tended to get distracted. This insight allowed me to plan my most challenging tasks during my peak energy times. The Pomodoro technique isn't just about managing time, it's about being intentional with your time. It helped me see time as a resource to be used wisely, rather than something that slips away unnoticed. Today, the Pomodoro technique is still my go-to method for staying on track. Whether I'm working on a project, studying for an exam, or tackling a personal goal, the Pomodoro technique keeps me focused, organized, and productive. If you're someone who struggles with time management or feels overwhelmed by tasks, I highly recommend giving it a try. You don't need to overcomplicate time management with complicated systems or expensive tools. Sometimes, all you need is a simple timer, a task list, and the commitment to focus for 25 minutes at a time. You'll be amazed at what you can accomplish in short bursts, and the sense of control and accomplishment will keep you motivated. Chapter 7: Reading and Continuous Learning. One of the most impactful habits I've adopted over the years is the practice of continuous learning, with reading being the cornerstone of that habit. For a long time, I viewed learning as something that only happened in a classroom or through formal education. Once I graduated, I thought my learning years were behind me. But I quickly realized that if I wanted to grow, improve, and evolve as a person, I needed to embrace learning as an ongoing journey. The easiest, and most accessible, way to do that was through reading. In the beginning, I was overwhelmed by the sheer volume of books and information out there. Where should I start? How would I find the time? But as soon as I made reading a regular part of my routine, I noticed a profound shift. Reading is an incredible tool because it allows you to expand your knowledge, challenge your thinking, and gain new perspectives, all from the comfort of your own home or on the go. Whether it's a personal development book, a biography, or a piece of fiction, reading opens doors to new ideas and concepts. One of the most important lessons I learned was that reading doesn't always have to be about learning specific facts or skills. It's about engaging your mind and nurturing curiosity. Every time I opened a book, I was training my brain to think critically, make connections, and approach problems from different angles. The more I read, the more I realized how much knowledge there is to gain, and how much there is still to learn. I also discovered that learning doesn't have to be confined to books alone. Podcasts, audiobooks, online courses, and lectures have become essential parts of my learning toolbox. For instance, while commuting or exercising, I can still absorb new ideas or hear from experts in fields I'm interested in, all without dedicating extra time in my day. This has made learning a more seamless and integrated part of my life. Another key insight was that continuous learning doesn't just apply to professional growth, it's essential for personal development, too. Reading about philosophy, psychology, history, and even fiction has helped me better understand myself and the world around me. It's like having a mentor in every book, each one offering lessons and insights that shape my thinking and decision-making. But perhaps the most rewarding aspect of reading and learning continuously is how it cultivates a growth mindset. Instead of seeing challenges or setbacks as failures, I now view them as opportunities for growth and learning. When you adopt a mindset of continuous learning, you stop seeing yourself as done or finished and instead, see each day as an opportunity to improve, refine, and adapt. Learning is a lifelong process, and the more you commit to it, the more you realize that there is always room for growth. One practical way I incorporated reading into my life was by setting aside 20 to 30 minutes each day, no matter how busy I was. Whether it was first thing in the morning with a cup of coffee or before bed as a way to unwind, I made time for books. I also kept a list of books I wanted to read, which kept me motivated and organized. It didn't matter if I finished a book in a week or a month, the point was to keep reading and keep learning. If you're not already in the habit of reading or learning continuously, I encourage you to start small. Find a book or a topic that excites you and dedicate a few minutes a day to it. You'll be amazed at how much you can learn, grow, and transform by making reading and continuous learning a daily habit. In a world that's constantly changing, the more knowledge you can acquire, the more adaptable and resilient you'll become. The key is to remain curious, open, and committed to expanding your horizons, one page at a time. Chapter 8, Building Self-Discipline. Building self-discipline is one of the most powerful habits you can develop. And it's also one of the most challenging. For much of my life, I struggled with staying consistent, sticking to my commitments, and pushing through discomfort. I often found myself giving in to distractions, procrastinating, or choosing the easy route over the one that required effort. But as I began to understand the importance of self-discipline, I realized that it wasn't about being perfect or having extraordinary willpower, it was about making small, deliberate choices each day that align with your long-term goals. One of the first breakthroughs I had was understanding that self-discipline is like a muscle, it needs to be exercised regularly to grow stronger. It's not something you either have or don't have. It's something you can cultivate over time with practice. So, I started by setting very clear intentions for myself. Rather than relying on vague goals like I want to be more disciplined, I set specific, actionable objectives. For example, instead of saying, I want to exercise more, I committed to I will work out for 30 minutes every morning. This clarity gave me a foundation to build discipline upon. The next step was to eliminate the excuses and distractions that made it easy to break my commitments. I realized that self-discipline wasn't just about forcing myself to work harder, it was about creating an environment that supported my goals. If I wanted to exercise in the morning, I laid out my workout clothes the night before. If I wanted to stay focused on a project, I turned off my phone and blocked out distractions. By setting up my environment to make it easier to stick to my goals, I removed a lot of the friction that made it difficult to stay disciplined. Another crucial lesson I learned about building self-discipline was the importance of consistency. It's not about making huge, dramatic changes overnight. It's about showing up every day, even when you don't feel like it. This is where I often went wrong in the past. I would get motivated for a week or two, but when things got tough or I didn't see immediate results, I'd give up. The difference this time was that I committed to consistency, even when progress felt slow or invisible. I made it a point to celebrate small wins along the way, recognizing that self-discipline is about the long-term effort, not just the immediate outcome. One of the biggest obstacles to building self-discipline is the temptation of instant gratification. In today's world, we are constantly bombarded with distractions and rewards that provide instant pleasure, whether it's scrolling through social media, eating junk food, or binge-watching TV shows. I had to learn to delay gratification and focus on the bigger picture. When I resisted the urge to take the easy way out, I felt a sense of pride that built my self-discipline further. Over time, this ability to delay gratification became a cornerstone of my discipline. It wasn't always easy, but I found that every time I chose the long-term benefit over short-term pleasure, I was strengthening my resolve. Building self-discipline also meant being kind to myself during moments of failure. There were plenty of times when I missed a workout, procrastinated on a task, or fell short of my goals. Instead of beating myself up or giving up entirely, I learned to treat myself with compassion and simply get back on track the next day. Self-discipline isn't about being perfect, it's about being consistent and resilient. It's about recognizing that setbacks are part of the process and that the most important thing is to keep going. The key to building self-discipline is making it a habit. The more you practice it, the easier it becomes to make disciplined choices. And as your discipline strengthens, you'll begin to notice a shift in your mindset. You'll feel more in control of your life, more confident in your ability to achieve your goals, and more motivated to continue building on your success. So, if you want to build self-discipline, start small. Make one commitment, stick to it, and build from there. Over time, those small acts of discipline will compound, and you'll see that self-discipline is the gateway to achieving everything you've ever wanted. Chapter 9: Digital Detox and Disconnecting from Social Media. In today's hyper-connected world, it's easy to find ourselves overwhelmed by the constant buzz of notifications, the never-ending scroll of social media, and the pressure to be always on. For a long time, I didn't even realize how much time I was spending on my devices or how it was affecting my mental and emotional well-being. My phone was my constant companion, whether I was working, relaxing, or even spending time with family and friends. The line between work and personal life became blurry, and I began to feel drained and disconnected, despite being connected all the time. That's when I decided to take a step back and commit to a digital detox. A digital detox is exactly what it sounds like, a conscious effort to disconnect from digital devices, especially social media, in order to reclaim your time, focus, and mental clarity. The first time I unplugged, I wasn't sure what to expect. I had grown so accustomed to checking my phone every few minutes, scrolling through social media feeds, or mindlessly browsing the web. I thought I might feel anxious or out of the loop, but what I experienced was completely the opposite. Disconnecting allowed me to rediscover the joy of being present in the moment. Without the constant distractions of email, notifications, or the need to compare myself to others on social media, I was able to focus on what really mattered: my work, my relationships, and my personal well-being. One of the most profound benefits of disconnecting from social media was how it improved my mental health. I realized that spending hours on platforms like Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter often left me feeling anxious, inadequate, or even depressed. Social media can be a highlight reel of everyone else's life, showing only the best moments and achievements. The constant comparison made me feel like I was falling behind or not measuring up. When I stopped engaging with social media, I noticed a significant decrease in my stress levels and a greater sense of contentment with my own life. It became clear to me that social media, while useful in some ways, often fuels a sense of disconnection rather than connection. When I was plugged in all the time, I wasn't truly engaging with the world around me. I was caught up in an endless cycle of digital noise. Another powerful change I experienced was the restoration of my time. I had no idea how much time I was wasting mindlessly scrolling through social media, watching videos, or checking emails. Once I eliminated these distractions, I suddenly had hours of free time that I could dedicate to more meaningful pursuits, like reading, working on personal projects, or simply spending quality time with loved ones. I began to see that time is one of our most valuable resources, and how we spend it has a profound impact on our overall happiness and productivity. During my digital detox, I also reconnected with hobbies and activities I had abandoned, like journaling, cooking, and outdoor walks. These activities didn't require a screen, and they allowed me to reconnect with myself in a way that was far more fulfilling than scrolling through Instagram or engaging in endless online debates. The experience reminded me that real life happens outside of a screen, and the more we disconnect from the digital world, the more we can truly engage with the world around us. It wasn't all about cutting out social media either. I also became more intentional about how I use technology in general. I set boundaries for when and how often I would check email, limited my use of entertainment apps, and even began leaving my phone in another room during meals or social gatherings. These small changes helped me create a healthier relationship with technology, allowing me to use it more purposefully rather than letting it control me. Since my digital detox, I've made it a regular practice to unplug, whether it's taking a weekend off from social media or dedicating a few hours each day to tech-free time. And the benefits have been undeniable. My focus, mental clarity, and overall well-being have improved significantly. If you feel overwhelmed by the digital world, I encourage you to try a digital detox for yourself. Start small, take a day or even a few hours to disconnect and see how it feels. You might be surprised by how freeing it can be to unplug and rediscover the richness of life beyond the screen. Disconnecting from social media and technology doesn't mean you're isolating yourself, it means you're reclaiming your time, your peace of mind, and your ability to be truly present. Chapter 10, Practice Self-Compassion. One of the most transformative habits I've embraced in my personal journey is the practice of self-compassion. For much of my life, I struggled with being overly critical of myself, often holding myself to impossibly high standards. If I made a mistake or didn't meet my expectations, would berate myself, convinced that I wasn't good enough. This harsh inner dialogue created unnecessary stress and prevented me from growing in a healthy way. It wasn't until I learned to practice self-compassion that I began to break free from this cycle of self-criticism and embrace a more loving, understanding approach to my imperfections. Self-compassion, in essence, is treating yourself with the same kindness, care, and understanding that you would offer a good friend who is struggling. It involves recognizing that, as humans, we all experience pain, setbacks, and mistakes. Rather than criticizing yourself for falling short, self-compassion allows you to acknowledge your imperfections with empathy and without judgment. One of the first steps I took towards self-compassion was recognizing the unrealistic expectations I had set for myself. I had often expected to be perfect in every aspect of my life, whether in my career, relationships, or personal development, and when I inevitably fell short, I viewed it as a failure rather than a normal part of the learning process. Self-compassion taught me that it's okay to make mistakes, that mistakes don't define my worth, and that I am worthy of love and acceptance, even when I fall short of my expectations. Practicing self-compassion also meant being gentle with myself during times of struggle. Life is filled with challenges, whether they're personal, professional, or emotional, and during those times, it's easy to get caught in a negative spiral, blaming myself or thinking I should be better at handling things. I learned to replace these negative thoughts with affirmations of kindness. When I faced difficult moments, instead of criticizing myself, I started saying things like, "It's okay to feel this way," or "You're doing the best you can right now." These simple phrases, when said with sincerity, helped me soften the edges of my inner critic and created space for healing and growth. Another important aspect of self-compassion is acknowledging that I'm not alone in my struggles. It's easy to feel isolated when we're going through tough times, but part of self-compassion is recognizing that suffering is part of the human experience. I started to realize that everyone, at some point, faces difficulties, and rather than isolating myself in shame, I could connect with others who shared similar experiences. This helped me to be more open and vulnerable, creating deeper connections with people and reducing the sense of isolation that often accompanies struggles. The practice of self-compassion also extended to my self-care routines. I began to recognize that taking care of myself, physically, mentally, and emotionally, isn't selfish, it's essential. I stopped viewing self-care as a luxury and began seeing it as a necessity. Whether it was getting enough sleep, exercising regularly, or setting aside time for relaxation and reflection, self-compassion encouraged me to prioritize my well-being. One of the most powerful shifts I experienced through self-compassion was the ability to forgive myself. In the past, I often carried guilt and regret about past decisions or mistakes, but self-compassion allowed me to release these feelings. I came to understand that holding on to guilt doesn't serve me, it only prevents me from moving forward and learning from the experience. By forgiving myself, I created space for growth, acceptance, and a renewed sense of purpose. Practicing self-compassion is a daily journey, not something that happens overnight. It requires patience, mindfulness, and a willingness to embrace vulnerability. But the rewards are immeasurable. When you treat yourself with compassion, you begin to heal old wounds, break free from self-doubt, and cultivate a deep sense of inner peace. Self-compassion allows you to be kinder to yourself, which, in turn, makes it easier to be kind to others. If you find yourself caught in the trap of self-criticism or unrealistic expectations, I encourage you to take a step back and show yourself the same kindness you would show to a friend. Start small, whether it's by replacing self-judgment with self-compassionate thoughts or by engaging in a self-care routine, and watch as the transformative power of kindness begins to reshape your life. Chapter 11, Creating a Positive Environment. The environment we surround ourselves with has a profound impact on our mindset, energy, and overall well-being. I learned this lesson the hard way after spending years in toxic or uninspiring spaces, whether at home, at work, or even in certain relationships. I often found myself feeling drained, uninspired, and stuck in a rut. I realized that in order to live a more fulfilling and positive life, I had to create an environment that supported my growth, nurtured my well-being, and inspired positivity. The first step I took in transforming my environment was decluttering. It may sound simple, but the physical space around us has a direct influence on our mental state. When my space was filled with clutter, it felt chaotic, and I could never fully relax or focus. I made a conscious decision to clear out items that no longer served me: old clothes, unnecessary paperwork, and things that didn't contribute to a positive atmosphere. As I decluttered, I noticed an immediate shift in how I felt. My mind felt clearer, and I was able to focus better. I also began to curate my environment with intentionality. I added elements that brought me joy, inspiration, and calm. Plants, artwork, candles, and even the right lighting can create a peaceful, welcoming atmosphere that fosters creativity and relaxation. I filled my space with things that uplifted me, and this simple act made a huge difference in how I felt day to day. Another key part of creating a positive environment is surrounding yourself with people who elevate you. I realize that the people we spend the most time with play an enormous role in shaping our mindset and energy. Negative, critical, or toxic individuals can drain our energy, while positive, supportive, and motivating people can encourage our growth and happiness. I took a closer look at my relationships and started to distance myself from those who brought me down, while nurturing relationships with those who encouraged and supported me. Being around positive, like-minded individuals created a sense of community and belonging, and it provided a safe space for me to thrive. Creating a positive environment also meant setting boundaries. I learned that I had to protect my time and energy, especially from things that were draining or unproductive. This wasn't always easy, but I started to say no to things that didn't align with my values or that left me feeling depleted. Whether it was saying no to extra work that wasn't necessary or avoiding activities that left me feeling exhausted, setting boundaries became an act of self-respect. Additionally, I made sure to surround myself with positive media. In the digital age, we are constantly bombarded with information, and much of it can be negative or overwhelming. I began curating my social media feeds, following accounts that inspired me, motivated me, and provided value to my life. I also spent more time consuming uplifting content, whether through books, podcasts, or documentaries, that aligned with my personal growth goals. This helped me shift my mindset and gave me a sense of purpose. Lastly, creating a positive environment means fostering positivity within yourself. It's not enough to rely on external factors to create a positive space, it's equally important to cultivate an internal environment of optimism and gratitude. I started practicing gratitude daily, writing down things I was thankful for, and focusing on the positive aspects of my life. This practice shifted my perspective and helped me focus on what I had, rather than what I lacked. I also worked on managing my thoughts and emotions, choosing to respond to challenges with calmness and resilience. Over time, I realized that a positive environment isn't just about the physical space you create or the people around you, it's about how you choose to think, feel, and react. By aligning your external environment with your internal mindset, you create a space that supports your growth, happiness, and success. If you feel like your environment isn't supporting the life you want to create, start small. Declutter your physical space, be mindful of the media you consume, set boundaries, and surround yourself with people who uplift and inspire you. As you consciously curate your environment, you'll begin to notice the positive changes it brings to your life. Chapter 12, Mindfulness and Staying Present. Mindfulness and staying present have become two of the most vital practices in my life, especially in a world that's constantly pulling us in 1,000 different directions. For much of my life, I was consumed by the past, ruminating on mistakes I'd made, or the future, worrying about things that hadn't yet happened. This mental tug-of-war left me feeling disconnected from the present moment and, ultimately, drained and anxious. It wasn't until I embraced mindfulness that I began to experience life with more clarity, peace, and joy. Mindfulness is essentially the practice of paying attention to the present moment without judgment. It sounds simple, but it's a skill that requires constant attention and practice. The idea is to focus on what's happening right now, rather than getting lost in thoughts about what's already happened or what might happen. At first, it was challenging to quiet my mind. I would try to meditate, but my thoughts would wander, and I'd get frustrated. However, I learned that mindfulness isn't about clearing your mind entirely or achieving perfect focus. It's about noticing your thoughts, emotions, and physical sensations, then gently guiding your attention back to the present. Without criticism. Over time, I began to realize that practicing mindfulness wasn't just about meditation. It could be incorporated into all aspects of life, from eating and walking to having conversations or working. For example, when I'm eating, I make a conscious effort to truly experience the taste, texture, and aroma of the food. Instead of mindlessly scrolling through my phone while eating, I take a moment to appreciate the meal in front of me. This simple act has not only improved my relationship with food but also deepened my overall sense of appreciation for life's small moments. Mindfulness also helped me reconnect with the people around me. Before practicing mindfulness, I would often catch myself thinking about what I needed to do next during conversations or mentally checking out when someone was speaking. Now, when I'm engaging with others, I focus on truly listening, giving my full attention and being present in the conversation. This has strengthened my relationships, as people can sense when you're truly present with them, rather than distracted. Another powerful aspect of mindfulness is how it allows you to manage stress and difficult emotions. In the past, when stress or anxiety would arise, would react impulsively, often making situations worse. Mindfulness has taught me to take a step back, pause, and observe my thoughts and emotions before reacting. This pause allows me to respond thoughtfully rather than reactively, which has made me more composed and grounded. Whether it's dealing with work pressures or personal challenges, mindfulness has become a powerful tool for navigating life with a sense of calm and resilience. The practice of staying present has also enhanced my ability to enjoy life more fully. It's easy to get caught up in the rush of daily activities, always focused on the next task or goal. But when I take the time to be mindful, I can fully appreciate the moments I'm experiencing, whether it's a quiet morning with a cup of coffee or a conversation with a friend. These seemingly small moments, when fully appreciated, can bring profound joy and contentment. In a world where we're often told to multitask and constantly strive for more, mindfulness reminds me that true fulfillment comes from being present. It teaches me that I don't need to be everywhere or do everything all at once. Instead, I can focus on one thing at a time, giving it my full attention and energy. This shift in perspective has helped me experience less stress, more gratitude, and a deeper sense of peace. If you find yourself overwhelmed by the constant demands of life, I encourage you to start practicing mindfulness. Begin by simply focusing on your breath for a few minutes each day, and slowly expand that practice to other areas of your life. Notice how being present in the moment can transform your experience and bring a greater sense of clarity and calm. As you cultivate mindfulness, you'll find that your life becomes richer, more meaningful, and filled with a sense of peace that transcends the chaos around you. Chapter 13, The Power of Saying No. Learning the power of saying no has been one of the most empowering lessons I've learned on my journey toward personal growth. For much of my life, I struggled with people-pleasing tendencies, constantly saying yes to others' requests out of fear of disappointing them or missing out on opportunities. I believed that by agreeing to everything, I could be helpful, liked, and successful. But in reality, this constant people-pleasing left me feeling overwhelmed, burned out, and, at times, resentful. I was giving so much of my time and energy to others that I had little left for myself or my own goals. It wasn't until I realized the importance of setting boundaries and saying no that I began to take control of my time, mental health, and overall well-being. Saying no isn't about being rude or selfish, rather, it's an act of self-respect and self-preservation. It's about recognizing that you have limited time and energy, and those resources need to be allocated wisely to things that align with your priorities and values. The first time I said no to something that didn't serve me, I felt an immediate sense of relief. It was a difficult decision, and there was a moment of guilt, but once I realized how much space it freed up in my life, I understood the power of that decision. Saying no allowed me to focus on what truly mattered to me. Instead of stretching myself thin and saying yes to every opportunity or request, I began to evaluate whether it was in line with my goals or if it contributed positively to my life. This process was liberating. It meant that I could say yes to things that brought me joy, growth, or fulfillment, and no to those that drained me or didn't align with my purpose. I also discovered that saying no is an essential part of protecting my energy. When we overcommit ourselves, we risk burning out and losing motivation. I learned that my time and energy are precious, and if I continue to say yes to every demand, I deplete myself to the point where I can no longer show up as my best self for the things that matter most. Saying no allowed me to conserve my energy and direct it toward projects, relationships, and activities that aligned with my values. Moreover, I learned that saying no is an essential component of healthy relationships. When we say yes to everything, we often build resentment over time because we're not honoring our true needs and desires. By saying no when something doesn't feel right or when I don't have the capacity, I create space for more authentic connections. It's a way of showing others that my time and boundaries are valuable, and in return, it invites respect and understanding. One of the most profound realizations I had about saying no was that it's a form of self-care. We often think of self-care as bubble baths or spa days, but setting boundaries is one of the most powerful forms of self-care. By saying no, I'm saying yes to myself. I'm protecting my time, preserving my peace, and ensuring that I'm not overwhelmed by obligations that don't align with my values or long-term goals. In practice, saying no can be difficult, especially when we fear letting others down. However, I've learned that being clear about my boundaries and communicating them with kindness and respect is not only acceptable but necessary. Saying no doesn't have to come with guilt, it's simply a way of honoring my own needs and ensuring that I have the space to grow, rest, and focus on what truly matters. If you find yourself saying yes too often, I encourage you to pause and ask yourself, does this align with my goals? Does it bring me joy or energy? Or does it drain me? Remember, every yes is also a no to something else. By saying no to the things that don't serve you, you're saying yes to the life and energy you deserve. The power of saying no lies in reclaiming your time, your peace, and your ability to focus on what truly matters in your life. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey through the 5 habits that changed my life. I hope these habits inspire you to make small but impactful changes in your own life. Remember, transformation doesn't happen overnight, but with consistency, you can achieve incredible results. If you found this audiobook helpful, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, Boundless Books Audio, for more tips on personal growth and motivation. I'll be sharing even more content on how you can take control of your life and create the change you want to see. Keep pushing forward, and I'll see you in the next video.